Thursday and you tuned into My Stock Scanner Live. We break down the latest moves and find opportunities before the weekend wraps. These two guys are the guys with the answers, Liam Flavelle and Hans-Henrik Nielsen, ready to answer my questions. My name is Jesper Baehrenz, and one of the first questions goes to you, Hans-Henrik, because yesterday we had a busy day in the office, understood in that way that we all of a sudden went on the move, bought three stocks for our portfolio. Why the hurry all of a sudden?
Oh, it was complete FOMO. No, we had a plan, or we have a plan, and when all of a sudden we start to see buy signals coming in, well, we buy. Also, even though we think the current situation is volatile and a bit nervous in the market, we have seen that with several crashes that when we start to get our signals, well, we better buy.
Talking about a plan, Liam Flavelle, it looked to somebody like Elon Musk didn't have a plan when he came with numbers from Tesla yesterday. That was a bit of a surprise. It didn't seem like the Elon of yesteryear. What goes on?
I know you're just coming to me because you'll get a shorter answer.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be over within the next 2 hours rather than going to
it was an interesting one yesterday. Normally, Elon Musk has got a certain way in his press conferences afterwards, and the questions that analysts can give to him, and he very much makes inappropriate jokes a lot of the time, and basically, yeah, I won't go any further than that. But yeah, it's weird. Yesterday was very, very calm, collected. It was miserable, actually. Yeah, he was saying, yeah, robots aren't doing particularly well. Yeah, the cars aren't doing particularly well, even though the sales are going up. But we're not going to have all of our chips sort of working for full self-driving in the next few years. So you would almost think he's got $1.5 trillion IPO coming up in the next few months, and he's got to be on best behavior. Yeah, SpaceX.
SpaceX it is. That's what it is. Okay. Well, we're going to dive into numbers, and Henrik will get his time allotted 3 minutes. I'll tell you right away. But in the meantime, of course, we have other things on the program. Remember to follow us on Facebook for exclusive updates, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch every episode. And then you will also get a reminder that the show is on. Today, we're looking at SAAB's latest numbers, and Tesla, as you can hear, is back in focus. In the aftermarket, Tesla dropped. They started going up and then they dropped down. Does that mean that Musk and Tesla are heading for trouble? In semiconductors, there's tension between TSM, Taiwan Semiconductor, and Dutch ASML. TSM thinks that the equipment that ASML has is way too expensive. We'll talk to Liam about that. And it is Thursday, so we have more tech for you. We're going to look at SK Hynix. They're falling despite record profits. And in the US, we have extreme volatility in one particular car rental stock. AVIS has exploded 700% in a month. Yesterday, they dropped 37%. Can you say meme stock? I think you can. And then we're going to look at Royal Unibrew and a couple of other things before the next half hour is done. Number of the day for Thursday, 11.29%. I'll tell you as much as it's about Reddit. And then we start in Sweden, and Liam Flavelle, SAAB, one of the big defense stocks that I know a lot of Danes and a lot of interest in our coverage as well from MyStockScanner, came with good numbers. Market not that impressed.
They didn't seem to. They're sort of breaking even now, I think, when you look at it. It's just the live trading view chart that we've got here. You can see they've been in a not a particularly good trend for the last few months, and this is when they announced numbers down here. They're actually 0.12% up, so they've bounced and come up, and that's what sort of we always like to see in a candle on here. Is that long wick down the bottom. So yeah, I think what often happens when a company comes in and announces earnings, investors look at it and say, it's time for me to take some profits off the table or take some losses off the table in this case. SAAB is a quality company. Most of our regular viewers sort of know that we were in it last year. We made a very good profit out of it last year. And you can still see everything's green, everything's going up. Earnings per share, and the analysts expect it to go up. Our PEG ratio, 2.5, is just about in our buy zone, but everything else looks good. It's the valuations. Now, I drew this sometime in the last 3 months or so, but this is the reason why it's gone down, really. It was top of the top of the price chart there. It was the really highest valuation that we thought it could get, and it's actually turned on that point and has just come down. So it's actually coming down to a place where we could look at it and say there's some good upside coming in there when it starts bouncing.
It sounds like it was priced for perfection in that sense that it had nowhere to go.
Well, the price perfection, often, we say price perfection, it's at the top of our ball area. So this green line is really where I drew in. That's the best case scenario if they come perfectly and flawlessly and investors love them. And what they do when they start loving a stock is they think, well, no, maybe it's time to go and find another cheap beaten up stock and we'll go into that one. So they take their profits and run. And that's, I think, what's been happening here. That's what it looks like. So we'll get another chance in maybe a month or so.
Because timing is the last question, you already shown the chart for that, in that sense that it is in a downward trend, and we don't like to see that. It's at the 200 and stuff like that. We need some movement going up.
It looks like it's using the 200. It has done for the last sort of 6-7 months or about a year now or so, but it's using the 50 now as a resistance point rather than a support point, which means that it's got to break through there. Also, our 2 MTI monitor indicators down here are red, so we'd wait until at least the daily started showing lots of green on there before we did anything.
Okay, and Liam Flavelle, it's time for you to go to the bathroom or go grab a coffee or a beer, whatever you want to do, because now we're going to bring in Hans-Henrik and we're going to talk Tesla, because earnings yesterday, straight after the earnings came, market went up on Tesla in the aftermarket. It was up by 4% almost. Hans-Henrik, then it tipped down and then he disappeared, Hans-Henrik.
And then he disappeared.
I think that he got scared by the big build-up that we had to him, that he had a lot of time on his hand. Are you back? Good to see you back.
Yeah, I lost my connection. Sorry about that.
Are you on a Starlink connection or something like that? Okay. That was a joke. We're going to talk Tesla. As I said, up 4% straight after earnings came out, and then it slowly dwindled down, and we're in the negative territory in pre-market.
Yes, it was quite interesting to see, actually. I'm looking a lot at Tesla. I think it's not very well priced, but as we can see here, it started yesterday in the aftermarket. It started to go up to 402, 3-ish, and now it's in the pre-market. It's down to 375, and that is because the analysts actually started to look at the numbers and say, this doesn't add up. They came out with some fairly good numbers on the surface, actually, but they delivered fewer cars. They have 50,000 cars more in inventory that they did last time. Many of the improvements in the numbers were, when you started to dig into it, were small accounting tricks. They were paying their suppliers a bit later to boost up cash flow, and all in all, it was actually not that impressive. Their battery division, energy storage, had a 15% drop in sales, which is really weird. It was meant to be one of the things that should really drive this. There was not much growth in full self-driving subscriptions. It was just weak.
And Hans-Henrik, I want to go back to what I talked to Liam about in regards to that Elon Musk energy that I won't say was lacking. He's often not as energetic and as a lot of other CEOs, but there was some weird.
Well, there was. I completely agree with Liam. It was weird. I was watching it this morning, and it struck me that he was. He's normally trying to massage the market, to do some magic, to say we're going to sell 1 trillion Teslas or something like that. It was all like, we have the Optimus robot ready, but we don't want to show it to anyone because someone might copy us. And the robo-taxis, it was more like, we don't really want to kill anyone with our robo-taxis, so we are a bit careful on the safety front. And it was just not like him at all.
Killing people is not a bad corporate decision.
That is a perfect decision. That is, it just hasn't been his main focus the other times.
No, I think it's a good focus to have. It will be interesting to see what happens when the market opens in the US. We know pre-market they are down a little bit. Interesting to see.
If I may add, Jesper, it is a good focus to have the safety and everything. The thing is that right now they're selling at a PE at 361, which means that the reason why that is pumped so high is because he's promising the moon every single time. What happens if he stops that? And if, for instance, it only sells at a P of 100 or 50, then it should go down by 70-80%.
But again, the buyers of Tesla stocks are tying it up to SpaceX, sometimes forgetting it's two different companies. But we'll get into that when the SpaceX IPO comes around. Right now, interesting quick comment that came in right now on our show here is that Kongsberg is up by 5%. We were talking SAAB just a minute ago, which is hovering around a 0. And we have a suggestion for the face-off tomorrow that we take SAAB and pit it against Kongsberg.
It's not a bad call.
Not a bad call at all. We'll take definitely a discussion about that. Right now, we pit two other stocks against one another. Liam, Thursday Tech. We have a little bit of a quarrel going on whether it's negotiation. I'm not sure. TSM, Taiwan Semiconductor, are looking at Dutch ASML and saying those machines that produce the chips that you're selling us for 400 million. That's a bit too pricey.
Yeah, it's not really a new story. I've been hearing these remarks and comments for the last 6 months or so, but it's only just become proper news. And what's effectively happening is, so ASML make the machines that make the chips. They use ultraviolet light to etch the chips and all the communication channels in the chips. They're phenomenally complex beasts that China had tried. They actually borrowed one and took it to China in little bits, and then employed a load of teams from ex-teams from ASML to recreate it in a warehouse, and no one knew each other's names and things like that. I think they managed to get it done, so they're starting to take some of that technology, but it's really, really complex. And what ASML have been working on for the last 5 years or so is to build the next version of that. And rather than costing the $185 million per machine that they do now, that TSM are actually fairly happy with, these new ones are $400 million each. And they allow much more advanced technology, and they are the next stage. TSM have said, how much? But I think that the main thing here is what TSM have said is that we don't want to take the risk of changing our practices when we're absolutely at full steam ahead with AI and we can't cope with the capacity coming in. Why would we take that risk to bring new technology on now when we're making money hand over fist and we don't need it? So they've said we can't see us buying anything till 2029.
And the thing is that it cost ASML in the market yesterday. They dropped.
They did, and they're down 3%. They dropped a little bit yesterday. They're down 3% today. But I think that just shows that they still make a huge amount of business, out of all their other machines. This is just the new shiny stuff that we will move to at some stage. 75% of their business comes from China. So to an extent, they almost don't care because they can't sell this stuff into China because the US have got a stop on this advanced technology going over there. I suspect, my theory is that a company like Intel could jump the gun on this one. And actually, if they had the cash and the funds and the strategy to invest in the new stuff, then in 3 years' time, when TSM come to do it, Intel are already ahead of them. So that could be a strategy that you see playing out. It's based on nothing else but supposition that one. But Intel are hungry and they're trying to regain their top market position.
Tesla is going to build a terafab,
They are, yeah. By 2052, then they might be in the market for an old sort of, extra EX sort of, EUV machine.
See, now I need Starlink to cut his connection again because he's back with that. But I'm gonna give you a beer, and it might be a beer from Royal Unibrew.
That's a first from you. We normally buy.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm large today in that sense. Royal Unibrew, both you guys know we've been talking about the last couple of days. They have been hammered in the market. Tuesday was particularly bad. Yesterday just kept adding on. But Hans-Henrik, a little bit up today. Are we finally seeing the bottom of the glass here? And are the big elephants coming into the market and buying up?
Well, first of all, we sold up here, so we almost don't care. But of course, it's always funny to pick the bottom. What we can see down here is a volume, and there have been fairly low volume for a long time here. And then on the sell, there were really, really many stocks that were traded. Today, it's not quite as high. And normally, when we're looking for bottoms, we're looking at if if we get a green bar on some really high volume, that could be a signal that the big guys are jumping in. I'm not seeing it right now, but we're not that far ahead in the day yet. I wouldn't trade on it, never.
And that's one of the reasons that we're also moving the show to 5 o'clock in the afternoon, because then we get the Danish market in full bloom, and we'll get the end of that. We'll get the end of a lot of the European markets, and we'll get the opening of the US market as well. That's why we broadcast at 5 o'clock for the Danish show from Monday, and the English show moves to 4 o'clock in the afternoon to get a little bit better knowledge of how the markets open in the US. And one of the things that's influencing the market everywhere in the world is, of course, the price of oil. And Hans-Henrik, I sort of had a little bit of a hunch that the magic price right now for oil is $100. It seems like if oil drops under 100, then markets go green. If it goes over $100, then markets go red.
Yeah, it's weird, because if we look at the Brent here, the UK version, which is the most traded oil in the world, and that is at 103-ish. When we did our Danish show, it was up around 103.4, and so it is dropping a bit down right now. It's kind of a circus down there in Hormuz right now, because it's still closed. All experts say that for every week they stay closed down there, we'll see $2-3 extra on the oil price. Trump were out saying that he's still allowing Iran and Russia to have lifted the sanctions on their oil. So Iran is still making a killing on their oil if they can export it. There are some histories about Chinese ships, 34 ships that have actually come out through the US blockade. So I'm not sure what no one knows what's going on down there. The crazy stuff is that normally at $100 we are talking about at least up in the $110, $120 for a prolonged period, we are talking about an almost certain recession in the world. So we are up in some really
dangerous
territories. Yeah.
But it's one of the things that Hans-Henrik keeps an eye out for in his market scan that comes out every morning just before the markets open, before 9 o'clock. As a member of MyStockScanner, you of course get to read that 5-minute read every morning about these macroeconomics things that influence every stock in the world, and also the tech stocks. And Liam, we're going to talk tech now. It's Thursday, and one of our favorite subjects is this one, maybe because we can't really buy it, because we've been looking to buy it for a long time. SK Hynix came with new numbers, again, record numbers. Market kind of went thumbs down. Now it's basically flat at the end of the market day. Take us into SK Hynix.
They came out with great numbers. All the memory suppliers, there's just not enough memory to go around at the moment, and AI is producing a demand for something called high bandwidth, or HBM memory, that all these companies are starting to produce, and they're starting to ditch the lower class of memory for that's used in hard disks or SSDs, and also for computer chips. You see in your PC or your laptop, they're starting to reduce down the number of those modules that they create. So SK Hynix are going great guns, and they actually overachieved on what the analysts expected them to go for, and the guidance was great as well. So I'm not even going to ask whether it's a quality company. Just take it from me. It's probably one of the companies you want to own in the world. Problem is, this flag here says it's based in Korea. Korea are starting to open out their stock market to other people, but I mean, I'm with Interactive Brokers, which is probably one of the quickest move on these things, and I still can't trade directly into Korea. And what that does, the real effect on that is, if we look down here, the PE ratio, which for a tech company in this sort of push, we can have a Micron in a minute. It's probably up at 40 or so, I would guess. It's 3 times lower priced than the equivalent out there of the US memory company. So that's why they're looking to do this, to access more liquidity out there.
To give a little teaser, one of the things that we're working on the platform is about ETFs, in that sense that we look to ETFs that pick up on SK Hynix, and there could be some interesting plays in the near future in regards to that, where they're part of it.
Yeah.
And again, that's one of the things coming on our platform, that we will give you even better opportunities and better ideas in regards to that. Liam, since we're talking tech, I need to ask you about ServiceNow, one of these software stocks that we thought had turned a corner, and then they got pounded yesterday.
They did get pounded. They went down, what, 12%, something like that, overall. So it wasn't, or in aftermarket. So it's not shown in our figures yet. It's not shown on the live prices. What happened was they came with numbers, and the numbers weren't brilliant, and they blamed some of that on the Middle East, saying about they're seeing some push down on the margins because companies in the Middle East that they thought were sure winners are pulling back on their obligations, or what they thought were going to be obligations back then. So that's reduced down their margins slightly. The other thing that the analysts really didn't like was the fact that they've got a big buyout going on at the moment with another tech company, and they're going to spend a lot of cash on that. It's going to reduce down their margins in the short term by 2.5–3%, something in that range. And analysts and investors really don't like companies that are seeing they're becoming less profitable, which is what squeezing margins means. It means they're getting less profit out of each dollar that they're spending running the business. And people hate that. They want to see a company that's getting more efficient and more profitable. So you look at something like Nvidia, their margins are going up. So the market loves them.
But in a sense, what you're saying here is, for once, for ServiceNow, it wasn't AI taking their lunch ticket; it was something else.
No, and that was my argument on Tuesday in the tech piece that I did. This ServiceNow was one of the companies. They have, they're a really high quality company. They generate bucket loads of cash. We all know that is how you measure cash in companies, by the bucket load. You can see down here that the stock, as of yesterday, had bounced and was starting to come up. It's probably down a bit now down here, but there are really, really good opportunities out there for a company like ServiceNow and others that were in my tech piece on Tuesday. So it's an interesting time for these guys. They've been beaten up massively, and from my mind, a lot of these companies are very unfair, because there's no way they're going to be at the forefront of AI, not the ones that suffer from this.
Well, from the bottom of the market, I was going to say that's not fair to ServiceNow, but if you look at their graph, it's definitely at the bottom right now. We're going to take a rocket and fire it up. It's very rare that you see cars fly. I can't remember, apart from was it Tesla that sent one?
It was a Tesla that had a roaster in space. Yeah,
exactly.
Back to the Future, not a documentary. I'm sure.
Yeah, it's not a documentary. But we're going to talk AVIS, Hans-Henrik. It's one of these weird stories that we have been taking a look at over the last month, because over the last month, 700% up. And it's not because that if I look out the window, I don't see AVIS cars everywhere. And that's almost what it calls for if it's going to go up 700%. What's going on with AVIS?
Yeah, AVIS is not a fantastic company. Let's just settle it at that in the beginning. Then what we have been watching the last week or two, a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, is this massive 700% spike. And the main reason for that is a technical thing called a short squeeze. Basically means that when someone is short a stock, they need to close that short position, they have to buy the stock back. So when people all of a sudden get nervous that a stock they thought were going into the gutter is going to rise up quickly, then they panic and they start closing down the short positions, which means the stock is going up even faster. When we look at the, where did I have it? All right. Basically deleted it again. When we look at the stock, we can see that there are a lot of short positions in it. Let's see if we
it's one of the things that is available in the resume for every company, that you can get to see that number, and it's not something that we focus on every day. Let's just agree upon that.
You see its eyes there every day.
93% of the AVIS stocks are shorted, meaning that everyone, all the big guys, have been thinking this one should really just go down quickly.
That's probably the management as well, then, isn't it?
Yeah, probably. This number tells us, with the current daily volume, how many days would it take to cover all short positions. So that basically means that right now there might be 10 days more left in this rocket. We don't know. It was like the pump and dumpers came in yesterday and shut it down. I would urge people out there to be really, really careful if they jump on something like this.
can you say meme stock? It's really,
it's definitely
really,
it's GameStop, it's AMC, it's Hertz, it's and it's a bit worrying because we're starting to see more of these Beyond Meat and so on, and that is sometimes a precursor to some market turmoil because the money have been a bit too easy for too long.
Beyond Meat's different though because they're vegetarians. They haven't got the energy to go that far that fast, have they? So.
All right. I think
how come it's Hans-Henrik losing his connection, not you, Liam? I don't
get it. Is that a hand grenade coming in through your window there, Liam?
Yeah, probably.
Anywho, guys, not to be non-serious, but AVIS went down. They have a brilliant ticker code. They're called CAR. But they went down 37.8% yesterday, as you can see from the graph that we just presented. Number of the day, 11.29%. I said it was Reddit. And that's when you go to your AI and ask a question, where does it find the answers? The large language models, 11.29%, it finds the answers at Reddit. LinkedIn comes in at number 2 as source, 11.03, and then Wikipedia, 9.53 on third place. The numbers have changed a little bit. They are using less YouTube and less Reddit. Still, Liam, what does that tell you when 1 in 10 answers come from Reddit?
It tells me that we're in a real predicament because if that's what AIs are basing their knowledge and understanding on 5.5% on Facebook, then yeah, we need to really check what the answers come back as.
Liam, exactly. didn't you have a stat from some scientist at a point saying that if you post 200 posts on the internet with some weird fact, then that is enough for AI to pick it up?
Yeah. And it becomes that's then a fact. That's it. I mean,
how many shows have we done now?
200? Yeah.
Okay. No, that was a joke. That was a joke.
Well, we are not on Reddit. So.
No, but the thing is, I'm going to tell you something that's not a joke. From Tuesday, April 28th, we're going to broadcast the English show at 4:00 in the afternoon. That means that we will move 3 hours. That means that we get the market close somewhere, or we get close to market close, and then we get the opening bell in the US. And that will be part of the show. So we're really very much looking forward to that. The Danish show move till 5:00 from Monday. So remember that. And that's why you should subscribe to YouTube, because then you get a reminder that the show is on. And then follow us on Facebook for the exclusive updates and articles that these two guys put out. Liam Flavelle always with the tech side of to it, and Hans-Henrik with the macro side. You won't regret signing up for MyStockScanner for a free month. You will be privy to take a look under the hood for everything that we do on that website. And again, we are at the end of the show for today, reminding you guys it's Tuesday and it's 4:00 in the afternoon. Lots of trading going on today. Market's not even open in the US. We will keep you updated by our social media. So sign up and follow us there. You guys have a good Thursday, and we'll see you on Tuesday. Take care out there.